If you have a question, we have 2 microphones going around in the audience. If you want to raise your hand, we have Megan back there and myself up here. So if you have a question, you just put that arm in the air. You can ask John a question. Anyone? Yep.
How is it that you met this beautiful family?
Well, let me explain really quick. Back in the days, I used to DJ with a group called the Manriquez Brothers. And, we do quinceañeras, we would do house parties, we would do all kind of parties. And then, boom, I bumped into Joe. We were a lot younger and a lot crazier then. But like me and Joe, I've known Joe for 30 years? 30 years I've known this guy. I mean, that's familia over there. You know what I mean? That's my family because they take care of me when, in need. And so that's how I got to know that family. And then his wife, Marina, her brother, Rudy, man, we're like brothers. You know what I mean? So it's like it's a family. Straight up, that's how. You bet.
How did you go about finding the community that built you, that made you work harder?
Believe it or not, the community, I always had a few people in the neighborhood, like my grandmother on my dad's side. She says, baby, one day I can see you speaking in front of people. I was kind of drunk, but I was, I kind of like, whatever, old lady. And then when I started speaking, I'm like, it hit me what she said. I'm like, oh my gosh. Another thing is my relationship with God. That is what gave me the strength. But also, this is really strange because I went to school here in 1986. I played ball here. I did all right. I chased mostly women and partied of what football players do back then. But I was going to the Fireside Lounge because I had a break in between classes, and I went to go sit down, and there was a motivational speaker speaking. He was from Oakland, and he was talking about getting out of your comfort zone. That man, in 15 minutes, changed my whole life. Because if I would have stayed on the road that I was, I'd be in prison or worse. 15 minutes changed my whole direction of life. So this is why I pay it forward. He paid it forward. I'm paying it forward, hopefully sharing it with somebody who is going through something. Yep.
How is it that you started working here at MJC?
Who is that?
Right here.
Oh, Luke. Well, I was a student worker here at one time. I worked for the DSPS department. And as a matter of fact, the office that I sit in, that was where my desk was. And I worked there, and then I heard through the grapevine, through some other employees, said, hey, there's a position open. Why don't you go for it? And it was, a program assistant. So I went for it. I didn't think nothing of it. I signed up, whatever. And a couple of months later, I got a call, come on in. I was like jazzed. It was like at that time, I was in school, didn't have a lot of money. Things were going crazy, and I got the job. So, a lot of the students and a lot of the people that work at Modesto Junior College, a lot of them at one time were students. So, yeah.
What made you want to pursue a degree in leadership?
I think I just got tired of looking at everything, what's going on in our country, everything that's going on in our neighborhoods. But see, my history goes further than that because what I didn't tell you is that where we lived in Oakland, 1025 56th Street, that was Black Panther territory. My grandmother used to cook fried chicken. They'd have their meetings at Mr. Spike's house. That's where I'd see these men, but I was too little to understand what was going on. But it was the Black Power movement. Everybody would say, hey, blood, not the gang blood, but in Oakland, blood means something else. Blood, when you say, hey, what's going on, blood, that means you're in the struggle. So being around militant, sometimes semi-militant parents that were in the struggle, some of that bled, some of that broke off into me. So that's why I became, I want to continue to pursue leadership. It's a lifelong journey.
Okay. Anybody else with a question for Mr. Griffin?
Tell us more about your faith life, your faith walk.
Well, my faith walk. I just got tired of how could I say it? After I lost my father, my father was my pillar of strength. And when I lost my dad, I fell into a deep depression to the place where I lost my job, I lost my house, I lost my family because it wasn't right in the head. And it was my family on my dad's side that called me and said, hey, why don't you come down here to Simi Valley? We'll take care of you. You don't have to work. You need to heal. And it was literally one day I was in the room by myself in Simi Valley, and I just heard the voice, read the Bible. I started reading the Bible. And as I started reading the Bible, for some reason my son got sick, and the best care was here in Modesto. So we moved back. And then from that on, accepted Jesus Christ, boom, he came into my life. And that's when things started to change. Anything else?
John, my question to you is just a follow-up for the gentleman. Your story is full of positivity and opportunity. How would you approach the generation today with your faith and your leadership skills?
That's a good question. And the answer to that would be this. Because right now, there is generally a disconnect between the older crowd, Generation X, baby boomers, between what we have now. I think the important thing to reach out is to understand the language. Because the youngsters, everybody, they have a different language because it's a different culture. So for me, I take out the time to study that culture and understand that language. A lot of it is music. A lot of it is technology. A lot of it is because I act a fool all the time. Mine is through laughter with people. Laughter is very powerful. Laughter sometimes works as that bridge to open up that gateway where you can communicate. Because when you're leading young people or leading people in that generation, when you're trying to get them from point A to point B, that's great. But before you can get them to point B, you have to first understand where they're coming from. So understanding that, you have to take out the time and do your research. As Alan McKissick used to say, when I had his class, research, and he'd give out these tickets. You have to do your homework to understand. It sounds silly because we think like, oh, I know my kids. Maybe you don't know your kids, and maybe you don't know the generation as much as you think you do. You have to take out the time to learn who they are. And if you're not doing that, then you're not, you're not really doing anything. It's great that institutions have resources, they have money and they can help you out with this and that, the students. But if you're not reaching the heart of the student, it's like having a race car with all the bells and whistles, but you have no starter in it. You start the car and it goes nowhere. It's stuck on the starting line, even though it's pumped up. So that's what we need to do as a community to make sure that we understand our students. Yep.
Where do you see yourself going from now into the future?
Well, today, this is my soft launch of what I'm trying to pursue, which is motivational speaking. But also not only motivational speaking, but also get into the place where I can get into the communities and do something, with workshops, everything like that, to work with not only youth, but people in general. I think where I see myself, definitely I will continue my education. And I don't know if I'll stay here at Modesto Junior College. I'm really hope that I do stay here at Modesto because there's a lot of hurting people here in Modesto. There's a lot of help. I mean, the Bay Area, I probably could go to the Bay Area right now and no problem get a job working, or LA or something like that, no problem. But here in Modesto, it's like a lot of people, and I understand, a lot of people, they get their degrees and they bounce. And they leave behind the people that need help. So I want to try to stay, but I don't know. I can't stay around forever either. I just got to pray on it and see where the Lord leads me.
Okay, we have time for one more question. There's one out there. Yep, back here.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm Sean Bautista.
All right, Sean.
Thank you for speaking.
Hey, thank you for coming.
Cool. My question is, when times get hard and things are really hard, when times get hard, where do you find your motivation, or where does it come from?
I'll tell you what it is. It's the lesson that I learned from my son that day. I look back at all of the things that I have. Because you know what happens when problems hit, tough times hit, we kind of get blind and our focus is only on the negative, woe is me, this is going on, this is problems. But you also have to look back at all of the blessings that has come your way, all of the opportunity that's coming your way. You woke up this morning, you're breathing. You have a roof over your head. I have a car, I have 2 cars. I can go and start my car up and come to work. I have a shower that actually has cold and hot water. Sounds crazy, but when I went to the Bahamas, there was a gentleman, his name was Hansel, but he wanted us to call him Shaba. He was a tour guide. He asked everybody in the bus, hey, you want to go off the grid? We're like, yeah. So we went off the grid, and a lot of people got scared. You could see people looking down, but me and my sisters in the back, we're like, yeah, listen. But we kind of got nervous, because when we got in the hood, see the hood's over here and the hood's over there, there's a huge difference. Because what I saw were these guys, man, with scars, missing eyes, missing limbs. They were guarding it looked like this big water fountain. It was actually a well. And what Shaba told me, he said that those guys over there, they're guarding the well because the water is like oil. So I threw up the peace sign, and they were cool. They threw up the peace sign. I saw women walking as far as like the mall with buckets of water, and they'd go and that's where they'd get their water, and then they walk back. They probably had to walk several trips. You see what I'm saying? So to go back to answer your question, when I see things like that, that helps me to be thankful for what I have, and being thankful, that helps me to keep right on moving forward, because it could be worse.
All right, let's hear one more time from Mr. Griffin. So we thank you all for joining us tonight. Next Wednesday, right in this very same room, we will have local artist Erica Ormsby speaking about how to live your best life, your best version of you. And the first 150 people will actually get her book, and she'll be doing a photo shoot and signing afterwards. And then we'll pick up our positive speaker series again in February with MJC adjunct professor Adrina Alcas, who also has a book. And the first 150 people at that will also have a chance to get her book, meet her, and get that signed. So we thank everybody for coming. Check out some more of our events at mjc.edu/campus life. And everybody, please drive home safely. And remember, please don't take the balloons or the centerpieces.